Some very tragic news has happened in the world of baseball as Vin Scully, the longtime voice of the Brooklyn/LA Dodgers, and also football play-by-play guy, passed away yesterday. His tenure with the LA Dodgers is well known, but there's a lot more than to that. Vin Scully actually began his career as a broadcaster and journalist at Fordham University. He loved that university in the state of New York. And then Red Barber, the legendary sports director of the CBS Sports Radio Network, and also Dodgers play-by-play guy, recruited Vin Scully for college football. Scully had a lot of good things and was told that if you want to be a successful sports announcer, you can't be a homer, aka meaning that you have a rooting interest on the team that employs you. Keep your opinions to yourself. Scully would actually join Red Barber in the Brooklyn Dodgers TV and radio booths, replacing Ernie Harwell after he left for the New York Giants. After Red Barber got into a salary dispute with Gillette prior to the 1953 World Series, Scully took over for Red Barber's position in the NBC television booth, becoming the youngest person to broadcast a World Series, a record that stands to this day, which is amazing. And then Red Barber would leave for the Yankees in 1954. Scully became the number one announcer. He would be Brooklyn's main guy. And then, of course, he went with the Dodgers when they moved from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. He was very, very popular and all that. A lot of fans actually at the LA Memorial Coliseum and Dodger Stadium would have transition radios to their ears, listening to the game while watching the game live. It was amazing. The Yankees almost got Vin Scully, but he declined. Vin Scully was very popular at the time and would call the World Series and all that. Anyway, Scully would have some key broadcast partners. Jerry Doggett was his color commentator for 3 decades, from 1956 to 1987. Ross Porter from 1977 to 2004. And the legendary Don Drysdale, who sadly passed away in Montreal before a Dodgers Expos game. And Vin Scully went on the air and really made it the difficult decision to say all that. You mentioned Drysdale's death by saying, "Never have I been asked to make an announcement that hurts me as much as this one. And I say it to you as best as I can with a broken heart." So, anyway, Vin Scully would stay as Dodger broadcaster from till 2016. So he lasted 66 years, not just in doing play-by-play in general, but for doing it for one team, which is hardcore. To put in perspective, he's lasted 66 years as a play-by-play announcer. And I, as of this taping, am 37, so that's amazing. But Vin Scully would also be known for being part of major broadcasts for CBS and NBC. But at the time when CBS didn't have baseball, he would be doing football games. He would be the play-by-play guy with many color analysts. Shockingly, one of his most famous calls was that of Dwight Clark's The Catch in 1982. Montana looking, throwing in the end zone. Clark caught it. Dwight Clark. It's a madhouse at Candlestick. A lot of people would be shocked because CBS did have NFC coverage, but they didn't have Madden and Summerall doing the game. But Vin Scully would also do tennis and PGA tour events, especially with the Masters in the 70s and 80s. Anyway, he decided to leave CBS in 1983 to get the play-by-play stuff for NBC. Because CBS wanted John Madden to be the star color commentator. And Vin Scully couldn't work with Madden. Scully was the number 2 guy. Anyway, there was a lot of issues and all that, but Summerall and Madden were the pairing, which led to Vin Scully kind of wanting to leave. But anyway, he was very much remembered for what he did for NBC from 1983 to 1989, when they had the last few years of their baseball coverage before CBS ironically swiped it. He would call the game of the week for NBC on Saturdays. He would be a legend. He would call 3 World Series, 84, 86, 88, 4 NLCS, 83, 85, 87, 89, and 4 All-Star games, 83, 85, 87, 89. The reason why it's every other year was because ABC and NBC had a rotation every other year. They would be doing the World Series, well, in the World Series, and ALCS, NLCS, and All-Star games. Scully would broadcast home games on the radio, road games for the Dodgers TV network, with Fridays and Saturdays off so he could work for NBC. Of course, let's not forget about some of Vin Scully's famous calls. The Bill Buckner play. Little roller up on first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight and the Nats win. He also called Kirk Gibson's famous home run in 1988. High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. He would be famously known for his work with Joe Garagiola. Vin Scully would call Fred Lynn's Grand Slam at the All-Star Game in 1983. Calling Jack Morris's no-hitter against the White Sox April 1984, and of course the World Series in 84. Ozzie Smith's game-winning home run in Game 5, although that call would actually be overshadowed by Jack Buck's call on the Cardinals radio network. Anyway, yeah. He famously chatted with Ronald Reagan in the broadcast booth for the 1989 All-Star Game. And he said, Bo Jackson says hello. Anyway, one of Scully's famous moments in 1989 was that he did the play-by-play for the Cardinals versus the Cubs in June of 1989. He went 10 innings. Meanwhile, the Dodgers were playing in Houston. And that game eventually went to 22 innings. So he broadcast the final 13 innings. So strangely, he would do 23 innings in one day in 2 different cities. Of course, he couldn't call Game 2 of the 89 NLCS because of laryngitis. So Bob Costas was flown to Chicago to do that game. Well, Oakland and Toronto were actually on an off day in the ALCS, so he got to call the NLCS. Vin Scully would call the final game for NBC Baseball until 1994, so it was amazing all that. NBC giving up baseball. Scully would actually still do NBC's PGA Tour thing. Scully would go back to doing the Dodger games, especially. So Vin Scully knew he had to do everything. And he was a superstar with the Dodgers and all that. He would call 100 games per season. And Charlie Steiner would be the play-by-play guy if he wasn't. So he retired in 2016 with a game in San Francisco. And his final words were, You and I have been friends for a long time, but I know in my heart that I've always needed you more than you ever needed me, and I'll miss our time together more than I can say. But you know what? There will be a new day, and eventually a new year. And when the upcoming winter gives way to spring, rest assured, once again, it will be time for Dodger baseball. So this is Vin Scully wishing you a pleasant good afternoon, wherever you may be. And of course, he was the last link to the Dodgers organization in Brooklyn, which is amazing and all that. So, a lot of people thought Vin Scully was going to come back out of retirement for 2017 when the Dodgers went to the World Series, but Vin Scully got to throw out the first pitch. Wow, he gave it to Fernando Valenzuela. But yeah, Vin Scully was huge. He even was broadcasting the MLB baseball series for PlayStation. After 2005, he left, and Matt Vasgersian became the main play-by-play guy. You know, MLB The Show. So he's done some episodes of TV and all that. John Miller of the Giants would impersonate Scully. But anyway, he had many awards. I mean, why not? Unfortunately, Vin Scully had tragedy in his early days. His 35-year-old wife, Joan Crawford, not the actress, passed away of a medical overdose in 1972. He would marry Sandra Hunt in 1973 and had a child together. Unfortunately, Scully's oldest son died in a helicopter crash in January 1994, just after the Northridge earthquake. Scully credits his religious Roman Catholic faith to help him ease the burden and grief from losing his wife and son. So, there was an unauthorized biography of Scully saying, "Pull up a chair, the Vin Scully story," written by Kurt Smith in 2009. For many years, Scully would not attend or even watch on TV a baseball game he was not announcing. Scully had 4 children, 2 stepchildren, 16 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. His wife Sandra died of ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, January 3rd, 2021. They were married for 48 years. Vin Scully will always be a broadcasting icon within the Dodgers organization and baseball fans around the world, especially being around 66 years. Vin Scully was 94